Go grab yourself a drink and settle in for today's video. Hoi hoi folks, welcome to today's video where I'm going to be sharing with you a speed paint, but also talking about why that speed paint exists. So I have shared this all over social media, so it's on TikTok and Instagram and everywhere else, so feel free to go and check it out there as well, and you can see the progress in this piece. But this piece is part of the Paintables 1 week character design challenge. So this is a challenge that I did last week, actually. From the date of this video going out, it'll be a week since I finished the challenge. But essentially it is a community challenge where people can come together to design characters. So it's run by the YouTube channel Paintable and the creator David, and David is an art teacher and he's a very good art teacher as well, and sells courses on different types of concept art. But this challenge essentially is to kind of push people outside their comfort zone, and I definitely felt that. So this is kind of going to be a little bit of a mini review of the course, as well as a kind of talk about the artwork as well. So as you probably know, I do a lot more wildlife art than I do character art. I do occasional portraits, but not very often. So this was fun for me to do something that I haven't done for a very long time, and to try and push my skills a little bit. And the way David breaks this down is into 5 lessons, 5 online virtual lessons. Now they're all live lessons via YouTube, and they were left up for a little bit afterwards, thankfully, because I'm in the UK and those videos were going live at 1 AM in the morning, which is very early, and with a day job and my own YouTube channel and art, and it was a lot to take on. So what I was doing instead was the following day I was watching the videos, taking on board what was there, and then implementing it into the brief. Now that's an important thing to mention, the brief. Before we even started the challenge, we had stuff sent out to us. So I signed up for it on, I think I did it through Instagram, and I was sent an email, and that email had some sketches and some piece of artwork, kind of examples. It also had a set of brushes as well, which I did use on this piece, and I'll give you my thoughts on those as well. And then it had the brief. So there were 5 characters, so essentially 5 different briefs, and I won't go into all of them, but essentially they each had a character title, and then it had a written brief as if a game company were hiring you to design the concept for this character, which is something that I found intriguing. Usually if I get a brief from someone, it's just, oh, I want a painting of my dog, or I want a seascape or something like that, and I'm pretty much going off my own head and my own interpretation of that. This had very specific requirements, which is something I haven't done before, so actually that is something I found very helpful and very interesting. And actually I surprised myself with what I managed to do with the prompts. So first thing that I did was to go through and read it and pull out all of the salient points, all of the important things that I was going to need to be able to create this piece. And I decided to go for the Red Queen. So the Red Queen, her kind of very basic background story is that she's potentially a witch. She has a magical red gem around her neck. There are rumours that she had seduced the king using magic and then usurped the throne from him after he died. Yeah, it's very, very fairy tale, very fantasy, and I thought, yeah, great, this is me. I'm going to go for this one. So I had that locked in my head for a couple of days. I loaded all the brushes onto Procreate. So they're just a Photoshop brush file, but actually Procreate works with those files as well, so no compatibility issues there. Loaded up very nicely indeed. And then the first lesson came. So the first lesson was Anatomy Made Easy. Now, there were 5 lessons, as I said. There was Anatomy Made Easy, followed by Costumes That Tell Stories, followed by followed by Hidden Secrets of Colour and Light, followed by Leveling Up Your Concept, and then finally there was Wow Your Audience. Now, these actually were helpful, but because David is a teacher and sells additional courses, I feel like this was it was not quite enough information for an absolute beginner, and it was kind of a little bit pared back for someone who's maybe a bit more advanced. So it's definitely aimed towards the kind of beginner intermediate level, which is great. If you're at that level, great. I mean, I suppose I'm more advanced in that I've been doing this for a long time, and I have my own channel where I teach these things as well. But actually there were things in there that I came away from as well thinking, I hadn't thought about it that way. One of my favourite things when I'm looking at other artists, and teachers in particular, is their particular outlook on things and how they come at things and go, I hadn't thought of it like that, but actually that makes sense. So as we went through each of the lessons, each day I gradually added on. So starting with a concept pose, first of all, then from the pose to a sketch, bit more of the character, trying to put in a bit of the costume as well. Then I started to think about the colours that I wanted to go in there. Then I had a more refined sketch, and you'll see when we get to the speed paint how that builds up. And alongside the online lessons and the resources that were given out, there was also a Discord as well. So Tribe for Paintable, and there was a section, so it's a free Discord to join, and there was a section specifically for the 1 week challenge. Now the thing that I found about this is that because it was aimed at slightly more advanced people, the people who were very much beginners were asking lots and lots of questions, and it became a little bit repetitive. I felt like there were a couple of cliques, there are a couple of groups who are very good at kind of motivating each other, but anyone else were kind of left out a little bit. I mean, this can happen with larger Discords and larger group chats like that. It could maybe have done with a little bit more monitoring, or separating out a little bit into kind of different sections, so it wasn't all just in one thing. Maybe have some subsections within there. David also was going on afterwards onto Discord and doing paintovers and interacting with the community, but again, because of the time zone thing, I wasn't able to do that because they were going live at 2:30 in the morning, which was, for me, just an absolute no-go. But all in all, I actually found the challenge itself really fun. I really enjoyed doing it, and I really enjoyed pushing myself in an area that I don't usually explore very much. So for that, I absolutely loved it. I think that the additional courses that David does sell, if I had the time to commit to doing them, and if the time zones kind of lined up, I think it's probably something I would consider doing as a more advanced artist. And, maybe one day I'll do it and post a review of how that went. But speaking on the experience of this challenge, I can say David's actually a very good teacher. So, anyway, that is talking about the actual challenge and why this piece came about. Let's go to speed paint now, and we'll see exactly how the challenge panned out. So let's talk about this actual piece, and we're starting off with a pose which actually is based on drag queens, because I love drag queens and I think they have such a powerful presence that I thought this would be perfect for this piece. So that's where I'm starting out. I am using the brushes that came in the pack for this one. So there is a triangle brush, which was really good for sketching and inking, a hard round, a soft round, and then a couple of kind of textury brushes. Now I've got a very different style to David. Everyone has their own kind of style, but I think a lot of style comes down to the tools that you are most comfortable and familiar with, and the ones that you use the most often. So I did vary slightly towards the end. I'll show you when we get to that point, but it was just slightly different. But I'm starting to think about the costume for this, and thinking about fairy tales and kind of pantomime and very regal costumes. I did make a mood board for this as well, which was one of the recommended briefs. So I went through and I looked at different costumes from ballet dancers and actual royalty from different parts of the world, and kind of came up with this amalgamation. The crown does change, and the face, I found it quite difficult to get the face pinned down on the figure, so I just did it over to the side and then dragged it into position, and that seemed to work really, really well. And this is where I'm doing my more refined sketch now. The crown has completely changed, and funnily enough, this is actually based on a real crown from a monarch in Europe. I don't know which one it was just a random one that I saw and I really liked. And I thought we've got lots of like velvets and silks and leather in this costume. That's how I'm kind of imagining it, with all of this gold as well. So I wanted to add some feather. So that's what that is around the neck, that kind of big collar, and those cuffs are feathers, because I thought I'm going to add a bit of softness in there as well. And it kind of harkens back to if she's a witch from the wild, so you kind of got that crow feather thing, you know, a bit of wildness in there on top of all of the regal stuff. So I wanted to go ahead and try and add as much as I could at this point to make it easier later when I'm painting details. And I think this is where I started to go away from the lessons a little bit more. Because I'm adding colour, I've gone for a grey toned background so that I can see my contrast even better and my variations in light and shade. I'm just dropping in all of my base colours, getting everything kind of fleshed out in my head. This is where I want all of these pieces to be. I had a bit of an experiment with what I might do for magic. This does change later because I wasn't quite over the moon with this, so I had a different idea that I wanted to play with. Now I've got my base colours in, it's now time to come in and think about doing shadow and light and really pushing the forms of the character so that we're seeing it as a three-dimensional thing and not just a flat 2D picture. And I wanted to give as much kind of airiness to those drapes under the arms as I could. So I've actually erased some of the colour in there and knocked it back to give it a little bit of transparency. So I'm now working on the face, and this is the part where I started to depart. I played around a little bit with the brushes that are in the pack, but actually I've got sets of brushes in Procreate that are based around oil colours and acrylics and gouache that I really like. So that's what I wanted to use, and that's where my style came in. So I've got these two charts over to the side. One is a skin tone chart, one is a skin chart placement, so you can see kind of where different tones would sit on a face. It's a slightly older face, so I did change it up quite a bit, but it was really nice to be able to see where I wanted to put those tonal values, and that's the kind of thing I'd get a reference book out for. So I thought I'd show it to you here so you can actually see what I'm doing on the character. The hand, actually, I had a lot of fun with. Hands are not one of my favourite things to paint, but thinking about it in terms of form rather than an anatomical thing kind of really helped with this. I really loved the red nails on this as well. But because of the way the face and the hands are painted, there's a slight disconnect with the rest of the body. So I'm going to go in later, I'm going to knock back all of the black line work so that it is then coloured to a tone close to, there we are, you can see now, close to whatever the local tone is and the local hue. And then that means I can build up with those painterly brushes and bring a little bit more of my style into it. This is still very concepty, so one of the things that I did really enjoy doing was using the lasso tool to create a little bit more dimension on the feathers around the cuff and around the collar. So I was able to go in, just do the lines that I wanted, and there are a couple of different tones of kind of dark and slightly lighter purple in there, which against the black works really well. But we're now getting, there we go, that's I'm going in now. We've got all of the detail and the jewellery and everything in. The gem is there. We're starting to get more painterly work coming in. There's really not very much left here other than a little bit of magic. That's last little spark, and then separating her and giving a little bit of background. So I'm going to leave you here. Enjoy the rest of the speed painting, and I'll come at you at the very end with my final thoughts. And there you go, that is my finished piece, and a piece actually that I'm very proud of. I actually really do like how it turned out. I'm tempted to go in and look at the other 4 prompts that came with this, the other 4 briefs, and see if I can do some of those in my own time, because it really was a lot of fun. And I fully encourage you to go ahead on Instagram and search OWCC 1 week character challenge. I think that is the prompt that was used, or you know, at Paintable, and I'm sure you'll find some on there as well. And just have a look at what other people did, because there were a lot of people doing this challenge. I think because there was a competition element as well, and there were giveaways, which has nothing to do with skill. It was random draws, which is great. It gives everyone an equal opportunity. There are actually a lot of entries per brief, and there is a lot of variation in skill level and in execution and in style and in content. You know, there is just such a wide variety, so definitely go and check that out. So this has been a slightly different kind of video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos from me. We'll get back to regular art content very soon, of course, gaming on Sundays. But for now, goodbye.